Explain how the principles of training are used to program for sports conditioning.
Principles of training are used to program sports conditioning by taking each one and applying it to your exercise. For example, by using specificity, you are taking a specific workout and applying it to your training. So if you're a footballer, you play on the wing, and your exercise would be to dribble and use your ability to pace through the cones and any agility test.
Explain the importance of considering individual performance goals when planning programs.
The principles of fitness and training can be manipulated by doing more or less of a few things. For example, some athletes will sacrifice their recovery periods for more training time. For example, a footballer might train every day but not train as much as they get better at their training, or they may use a shorter or a longer distance instead of doing what they should be doing.
Is it general specific? Oh, I don't know.
Individual sporting goals. Individual sporting goals are very important because they need to be achievable and not too demanding. For example, a striker would aim for double figures in a season, not something too ridiculous like a goal each game. Then top football players also aim for 20 goals a season. This applies for strikers playing for the best teams, for example, Harry Kane, Sergio Ramos and Lukaku. How demands can be used for effective sports programs. Demands can be used for effective programming by making sure that a player meets the requirements, or if they are already at it, they can improve and become more desirable for certain positions. For example, a central midfielder should be very fit, but it's not always a must, since some midfielders are good enough not to need a great amount of fitness in their training, since they have a remarkable amount of talent and technique in their abilities. Types of demands put on a sports person. Physical demands that could be placed upon a sports person, things like physical fitness, agility tests for wingers, and defence strategies for defenders. Environmental demands consist of being able to adapt to different weathers, such as hot climates, cold climates, and different VO2 intakes. Biomechanical demands consist of movement. For example, wingers will usually receive the ball whilst running, so they already be facing their opposition, whereas a centre midfielder will always be turning forward, leftward, backwards and sideways. Also, strikers will usually have a back towards their goal. Psychological demands. There's a lot of psychological demands in fitness. Having a strong mind and being able to focus when other players are trying to get in your head. For example, in a footballer's game, if a midfielder has received a yellow card, the opposition will try to get your second yellow. This means that you have to be very good at concentrating, not allowing the players to get what they want by manipulating them. Specific sporting demands. Specific sporting demands are important because top athletes need to be very fit, especially for more demanding roles. For example, a central midfielder plays box to box on a full-size pitch. Other demands consist of getting the right nutrition, protein and minimal fat. Specific fitness tests. Specific fitness tests are very important because you can give very hard fitness tests depending on what position you're playing, or expect the same level of fitness from the whole teams. This needs to be made apparent, since strikers will not have as much fitness as the midfielders, and keepers especially won't have the same amount of fitness. Ways the effective programming can be helped to prevent overtraining and break the injury cycle. Effective programming can be utilised to prevent overtraining and the injury cycle by making sure that there are enough recovery periods between training time. This ensures that you recover enough and you're not injured. Ways an individual's specific circumstances and requirements can affect the overall demands of a sport performance. An individual circumstance can affect the overall demands because they should be assessed differently due to said circumstances. For example, a player could have very technically but not very good when it comes to physical demands, or could have asthma. They cannot perform too well in fitness tests, but they should still be considered since it's not something they can control. How the demands can be assessed and analysed to provide key information. By knowing what demands are needed for a central midfielder, you will know physically capable they should be. This means if they're not up to standard, you wouldn't have to improve their fitness. Ways the individual specific circumstances and requirements can affect the overall demands. Individual circumstances can affect, for example, players can be technically good but not physically good. Fitness assessment. Fitness assessments can be used in multiple stage fitness tests, any forms of continuous training. For cardiovascular fitness, are agilities for tests for agility. There is a forestry step test for muscular endurance, or the bleep test for cardiovascular endurance. Static and postural tests. For posture, you can use a string test where someone stands in the middle of the string and sees if their body is symmetrical. Posture is all about your shoulder to back line. If it means that your posture is good and there are no anomalies, also you ask the person to stand straight and see if their earlobe is in line with their shoulders, and if their shoulders is in line with their hip, then your knee and ankle should be behind your hip. And it may be necessary to refer someone to a professional. When an athlete has a bad posture while training, or is not very good at training, is complaining of cardiovascular pains, refer to a professional. How they should critically compare a range of fitness assessments to select the appropriate ones for the team. They would assess each individual on tests and would probably accept the athletes to get above average on most, since they are professional athletes and should be at the highest of their game. Also, managers are hoping that the team are above average and not getting normal results in their fitness tests, otherwise they'll have to reconsider their places. How the selected fitness assessments can be used. Support programs to the maximum sporting performance. Sprint fitness tests could use to maximise sporting performance because sports require pace, and in football, for example, every player on the pitch will need the pace to get a few metres against their opponents. Even a keeper needs pace to come and collect the ball as quickly as possible. Signs and symptoms of overtraining. Muscle strains, headaches, and tiredness, and also low energy levels, all signs and symptoms of overtraining and could lead to harm of players. Principles of training are how principles of training are used in the program. Programs be periodised to maximum competitive performances by splitting your year's work into 4 sections. First section is called the transition. This will be a bit for the end of the season to start of the next season. This section is there to ensure you get your period. It is vital since every training program has a recovery section. Pre-season is when a player's intense training comes to the means that you will be doing plyometric and explosive workouts, for example, explosive power. Competitive seasons is when you have all your competitive matches and tournaments. This is when you keep training light and don't overexert yourself while training. Individual sporting goals. Individual sporting goals are very important because they need to be achievable, not too demanding. For example, strikers should aim for double figures.